Being the son of an alcoholic, uh, that was one of the things that I told myself I would never become. And to the contrary, that's exactly what happened. Um, Being that he was my role model and, I loved my father, I became the same exact thing. I remember always feeling like I was out of place, always wanting to have to fit in. I started rebelling. I started doing things I shouldn't have been doing. I was brought up in a religious home. I knew right from wrong, but I chose the wrong things to do because the company that I kept, that was a way for them to accept me. And so I fit in. And like I said earlier, I would do anything and everything to feel a part of. As I got older in school, sports started coming into my life, and I saw that as an outlet. And I would say I was fairly good at it. And it was a way of being accepted. Through high school, participating in sports, I met a young lady that I feel she accepted me for me. And for me to experience that, that was an overwhelming feeling. Whereas I still believe to today, I cared about her more than I cared about myself because someone was accepting me for me. And so I got married at an early age, 17 years old. And I joined the Marine Corps. By joining the Marine Corps, of course, I got orders overseas a year after my daughter was born, and it was an unaccompanied tour. So I was in Japan by myself, and my wife and child was in New York. I said before, I kept bad company. I found myself after 6 months of being faithful to my wife overseas and paying for sex. And that's what I did. And I justified that by being okay because I was paying for it. I didn't love these women. I just had needs to be met, and I justified that. Upon returning back to the United States, of course, my wife questioned me about my behavior. I decided to get honest and say, I don't want to know what you did in the 18 months. We have a daughter. We were victims of circumstances. We need to move on. I paid for sex. I didn't love these women. I just had needs that needed to be met, and I still don't want to know what you did. And my wife at that time told me, that's fine, I understand, as long as you didn't love them. And she said she was okay with it. The next day I went to work and came home to an empty house. She had left California and moved back to Brooklyn. And my world was devastated. They talked about a snowball going downhill. And that's what was happening. Losing my wife, losing contact with my baby girl, my mother passing on, and having no coping skills. On top of all that, being a member of the Marine Corps, we don't talk about our issues. We're men, we handle it. At some point, they kindly asked me to leave the military. I just wasn't getting it done. Through all of it, today I do have a higher power that I thank for every moment. He has a sense of humor. I can remember growing up and watching the other older men on my block as they would sit around and converse with each other and tell jokes, and each one of them owned a Cadillac. And I remember growing up and telling my higher power, who I choose to call God, all I wanted was a Cadillac. And like I said, my higher power, he has a sense of humor. I got a Cadillac before it was all over. The difference between my Cadillac and the older guys' Cadillacs was theirs had tires on it and mine didn't. And mine was the place I called home. I had been reduced to living in a car, abandoned car, no tires on it, in the middle of the winter with 6 blankets. It just wasn't getting any warmer. And I found myself wiggling around trying to get warm, and I looked up and I reached up to touch my windshield, but my hand kept going. So actually what had happened was somebody had stole my windshield. And I was so caught up in insane in this disease, I jumped out of the Cadillac in the middle of the street to the top of my lungs screaming, "Who broke into my crib?" I honestly believed that this was my house. That's where it took me. But I also recall that was the breaking moment for me. About 5 days later, I was checked into a detox unit at the Brooklyn VA hospital. And I remember being in the VA hospital for 20 days looking out the window, and a priest snuck up behind me and he asked me, "You looking out the window, are you looking for that abandoned car?" See, after having 20 days of 3 meals a day and having a bed to rest in and gaining maybe 5, 6 pounds, I was ready to do it again. But the priest was there right on time. And he asked me, "Are you looking for your abandoned car?" He said, "It's still there if you want it." But he said, "Do yourself a favor. I got a place for you to go." And it's a 90-day treatment program. And today, I live one day at a time. I'm blessed with a wife and 3 children. I'm fortunate enough to have a job where I'm able to give back to other recovering addicts that are trying to find their way. I thank you for the opportunity to share a piece of my life, the piece that really, really matters. And it's been a journey, and it's not over. Thank you for letting me share.